And we are live. You already know who it is. My name is Mike Kyle, aka the Fantasy Vulture. I have over a decade worth of fantasy football experience, and I've continuously competed for fantasy championships over the course of the past 6 seasons. Let's make it 7 in 2020. But enough of me. I'm here for you. On today's episode of the FB Show, we are going to continue our Week 1 recap where we break down every single game on an individual basis for fantasy football purposes. In this video in particular, we're going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if you are excited for this recap, be sure to hit that like button down below, like an open receiver downfield, Patrick Mahomes style. And if you want to stick around for more fantasy football content, all you have to do is smash that subscribe button, power running back style, like Derrick Henry up the middle. And for a bonus, for a treat, if you want to follow me on all social media platforms, you can. That is at FFVulture. You guys know, at least you guys should know, how we do highlights by now. Let's just dive right in. We got the Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars, the only game on Sunday that had fans in attendance in Jacksonville. All right, here we go. First quarter, was it Jonathan Taylor? No. Marlon Mack? No. Instead, Nyheim Hines gets the 12-yard rushing touchdown. Our first vulture of the year? Maybe. But then second quarter, Gardner Minshew to DJ Chark, my favorite stack this season. I've talked about it time and time again. 6-yard touchdown for Chark. We got a tied game. Later on, second quarter, 2nd and 9, Phillip Rivers hits the rookie Jonathan Taylor for his first ever touch in the NFL, and it goes for 35 yards, an incredible run from the Wisconsin product. But then, later on that same drive here, 2nd and goal, and stacked 3rd and goal, but it don't matter, because guess who? Nyheim Hines gets his 2nd touchdown of the game. And then, just to end out the first half, Laviska Shenault, welcome to the league, rookie Shenault Minshew, 15 yards, touchdown. But we aren't done here with the Jacksonville offense. In fact, we're going to keep going here. Fourth quarter now, it's 2nd and 9. James Robinson, the dump out, and woo! Hurdles the defender and racks up an additional 20 yards. 28-yard gain from Robinson, who played really well. I really wasn't expecting him to do much, but he balled out in this game. More on him later. And then just the real dagger here. We knew it. We knew it. We've been saying it all offseason long. Gardner Minshew is going to be a viable fantasy football quarterback. And he hits Keelan Cole for a 22-yard touchdown. Jaguars win 27-20. Phillip Rivers threw 46 times, completed 36 of those 46 attempts, 363 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Nyheim Hines, the big story of the game here. 7 carries, 8 receptions, 73 total yards, and 2 touchdowns. Parris Campbell had 9 targets, 6 receptions, and 71 yards. And Jonathan Taylor, 9 carries, 6 receptions, and 93 total yards. The big story here for the Colts is Marlon Mack left the game in the second quarter with a rumored torn Achilles. And that is a major blow for Mack, who is playing in a contract year, who is expected to be the 1A, 1B punch with Jonathan Taylor. But Jonathan Taylor now is locked and loaded to be a top 10 running back. I'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But let's talk about the Jags real quick. Gardner Minshew, that line is legit, and it makes me so happy and so upset at the same time. I'll touch on that in just a moment as well. Gardner Minshew, 19 completions on 20 pass attempts, 173 yards, and 3 touchdowns. James Robinson, the undrafted rookie, 16 carries, 90 yards. Laviska Shenault, the 2nd-round draft pick, 3 receptions, 37 yards, and a score. And DJ Chark, 3 receptions for 25 yards and a touchdown. Also to note, Keelan Cole, who had a great game, 5 for 5, 47 yards, and 1 touchdown. All right, let's go right here, shall we? We need to talk about the big story here, and I want to pull up all my data here just to make sure I get it all correct. You know, being the good fantasy analyst that I am. The big story here is obviously Marlon Mack, and this was such a blow for him. And for anybody who thought he would be valuable for fantasy, right? For obvious reasons, right? You had to make a decision this offseason, and that decision was, are you drafting Jonathan Taylor knowing that Marlon Mack is still in the picture, right? Jonathan Taylor was being drafted in the 5th round. Marlon Mack was going in the 7th, but even still, we knew, like, hey, if Jonathan Taylor gets the work full-time here, he's going to be a top 10 running back, right? This offensive line is great. They have a great supporting cast around him that can move the ball. He's going to be extremely valuable for fantasy purposes. The issue is that we still had Marlon Mack over here to the side, just kind of doing his thing, right? Frank Wright was saying that they were going to be the 1-2 punch. And here we go. First game of the season, and Mack allegedly tears his Achilles. And, whoo! I texted the Jonathan Taylor owner in my Dynasty League, who, you know, he was saying before the game started that, because he has Swift and Jonathan Taylor, and he's like, I just need one of them to come on strong before week 12, right? I need to have, like, that extra option. And then Mack goes down. He goes, oh boy, I think I have my option, right? So Jonathan Taylor is going to be the guy now. It's going to be Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. And yes, like, there was going to be a 3-headed monster, and it's now shrunk down to 2. But their games are very totally different. Even though Himes got that rushing touchdown earlier, I don't believe that to be, you know, his full-time role. He's more so going to be that passing down back, which, again, Phillip Rivers loves his pass-catching running backs. Danny Woodhead, Austin Eckler, the list goes on and on and on. LaDainian Tomlinson, if you want to throw that out too. Like, Nyheim Hines just fits that mold. I actually tried to trade for Nyheim Hines this offseason because I believed in the trend that he was going to be the next great pass-catching running back for Phillip Rivers. But their games are so different, and I think that's what's going to make them gel so well, them being Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, because Mack and Taylor just had very similar games, so it was very just repetitive and duplicative. But when you have that change of pace guy like Nyheim Hines compared to the power running back that is Jonathan Taylor, that sets up for the better 1-2 punch that Frank Wright is alluding to, that he wants to use from his running backs. So I'm really excited about both guys moving forward, but man, Jonathan Taylor, like, the sky's the limit now. Now the fact that we know he's going to see likely 20 carries week in and week out, and he's going to be the main workhorse running back in this offense. The other name that I really want to mention here was Parris Campbell. Parris Campbell and T.Y. Hilton, they both had 9 targets, so like, that was great. But we were really looking to see between Parris Campbell and Michael Pittman Jr. who was going to be that number 2 option. And it was Parris Campbell in a landslide. Michael Pittman Jr. only had 2 targets for 10 yards. And Parris Campbell, of course, as I mentioned, had 9 targets, 6 receptions for 71 yards. Just a really good game from him. Last season, he struggled with injury, and he was barely able to see the field during his rookie season. Here we go into year 2. He's healthy, and things should be rolling. Phillip Rivers, we know, loves his target, like those intermediate style throws. You know, that's what Keenan Allen excelled at. That's where he throws over the middle to guys like Hunter Henry, Antonio Gates, just to name a few players. So the Parris Campbell is set up to succeed in this offense, and I know for a fact that the Colts are really excited to have him back as well. Anything else here for as far as the Colts go? I thought Phillip Rivers played pretty well. I was not expecting him to put up. Well, that's the thing, right? I said start your Colts. And when I said start your Colts, I think I specifically mentioned this in the video or the live stream that I did on Sunday morning. Does that include Phillip Rivers? Are you really excited to start Phillip Rivers in this matchup? I felt like the answer was kind of yes, but if you went another direction, I totally understood that as well. Phillip Rivers ultimately ended up his day with, I believe with 15 or 16 points. I'm looking at my scoring now, and it says 18, but I know that my quarterback scoring is slightly different than the normal scoring, so I had to kind of take that into consideration here. But Phillip Rivers, if you played him, he was fine. He didn't hurt you. He didn't kill you. You were fine with his performance. On the other end of things, though, with the Jacksonville Jaguars, Gardner fucking Minshew. And I'm sad. And the reason why I'm sad is because I talked up Minshew all offseason. I said he could be very productive for fantasy. Here's reason XYZ. I went over this multiple times. But ultimately, for this week, I didn't have the balls to start him. I really didn't. I was looking at my matchup, and I kind of got lucky in the sense of my opponent had Miles Sanders and Mike Evans, and Mike Evans was limited, and Miles Sanders did not play this week. So I dodged a bullet there, but even looking at my matchup, I didn't feel great about it. I felt like my opponent had some options that could really hurt me. He had the Drew Brees Kamara stack, and it turned out that Kamara played really well. He had Zach Ertz. He had AJ Green. So we had some options there that could do some damage to me. And I felt like if Minshew busted by any means, or even if he just had a mad game, that wouldn't be enough based upon who I was playing and the roster that I was putting out this week as well. So I actually opted to go with Ryan Tannehill, and you guys saw me do that on stream earlier this morning. If you guys watched that live stream, I went through the thought process and the motions live, just trying to figure it out. So I did end up sitting Minshew, but seeing him play really well in this game gave me a lot of confidence moving forward. And I think that was just the one thing that I really needed, because I believed in what Gardner Minshew could be. I just needed to see it one more time to remind myself, oh, like this is why you wanted to draft him with your last round pick in your fantasy league as your quarterback, even though everybody was going to laugh at you for doing so. Looking over to the running backs then for Jacksonville, James Robinson here is the big story with Devine Ozigbo going on IR. I didn't talk about that because, again, the way that my content is really structured is I don't have a whole lot of room to just talk about breaking news or things like that. So that's why that's more so done on my Twitter account, which, again, follow me there. James Robinson, 16 carries, 62 yards, and then, of course, that monster 28-yard run. He looked really good. He really did. They were giving him the ball left, right, and center. Again, 16 carries for an undrafted rookie. Chris Thompson only had 2 receptions for 6 yards. He only had 2 targets. But it was the James Robinson show. And I saw it. I didn't believe it, but it happened, and we have to roll with it, right? This is one of those things where you have to be fluid in the situation and realize just because you didn't like James Robinson going into week 1 doesn't mean that you have to dislike him for the rest of the season. So I'm really interested to see what his role is going to be, especially if this is the team that is going to stay competitive and stay in ball games. Moving over to the wide receivers, Keelan Cole here. Keelan Cole was the leading receiver for this team. 5 receptions, 47 yards, and that touchdown. The majority of that coming from that 22-yard touchdown. So that's obviously going to inflate the numbers just a little bit. But Gardner Minshew really is a guy who just spreads the ball. And I think that was the issue with D.D. Westbrook last season specifically, was that Westbrook didn't play in this game. But we were so bummed out about Westbrook because of all the hype that we had coming in for him last season. And the reality was that it's not that Minshew didn't target him, it was that other players were just being involved as well. Minshew does a really good job of just feeding everybody. So just to kind of go through the target numbers. Keelan Cole had 5, Laviska Shenault had 4, DJ Chark only had 3, and Chris Conley had 1. So and granted, he did only throw 20 pass attempts, so that is going to minimize the numbers just a little bit. But even just going off of that 20 distribution, everybody was involved and everybody was productive. I mean, he had 3 different touchdowns to 3 different receivers. And that is really intriguing going forward, that he has the confidence to throw to nearly everybody on the field. DJ Chark, I want to just touch on him just a moment. He actually kind of let me down a little bit. Yes, he did catch the touchdown and he caught all 3 of his targets for 25 yards. But I was expecting a bit more. I was expecting more involvement from him, especially in a game like this. And granted, they were winning, so they didn't have to rely on the pass as much as I thought they were going to. But I did think DJ Chark was going to see more than 3 targets. So that number coming out like that was a bit surprising for me, at least. Laviska Shenault, there were some rumors that they were going to use him in a variety of different ways. And they did. Not only in the receiving game, he also had 2 carries, but then he was also placed as the Wildcat. He was also used at quarterback in the Wildcat formation, which was something that they were hinting at a little bit all offseason long. It's something that he did in college at Colorado, so seeing him do it in Jacksonville, not a big surprise. But what is actually funny is Laviska Shenault went for $201 fab dollars in my Dynasty League. Again, after a trade, he was dropped, and it was kind of like a bidding war to see if anybody was going to pick him up. And I spent all my money on T. Higgins, and somebody else in my league spent all their money on Laviska Shenault. So it looks like he got the guy. He got a guy, should I say, in Laviska. Laviska actually really impressed me this game. I wasn't a big fan of his coming out of college. I thought he can do a little bit of everything, but wasn't great. It didn't really jump off the page. And to see him put up some good numbers at least in this win against the Colts was actually really encouraging for me going forward in my outlook on him. There's not a whole else here that I have to say. I think I covered everything. So thank you so much for watching this game recap. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button down below, as well as that subscribe button. Whether you want to do a power running back style or like an open receiver downfield, maybe you're a quarterback guy. Whatever one you want to do, please do it. You can also follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. And if you're listening to the podcast, be sure to leave us a review wherever you are listening. I'm going to get up out of here, and I will see you in the next video. Remember, people come and go, but fantasy championships are forever. I'm out. Later.